Welcome to the place inside. I am your host, Laurence Galian. This is podcast number 24. I suggest you go over to the MUFON.com site and check out what's going on over in Missouri. As someone who has lived in St. Louis, events in Missouri are of particular interest to me. The sightings were in a place called Lee's Summit, Missouri, on the nights of October 3rd and 4th, 2011. Multiple eyewitnesses as well as a military presence were there. One of the most mysterious stories of a crashed UFO with alien bodies preceded the well-known Roswell event by some 6 years. This case was first brought to UFO investigators by Leo Stringfield in his book UFO Crash Retrievals: The Inner Sanctum. He opened a tantalizing account of a military-controlled UFO crash retrieval, which is still being researched today. The details of the case were sent to him in a letter from one Charlotte Mann, who related her minister grandfather's deathbed confession of being summoned to pray over alien crash victims outside of Cape Girardeau, Missouri in the spring of 1941. Too much focus is put just onto Roswell, when, as I just told you, there is a fascinating crash to be studied in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Why is this? Because the evil dynamics are forcing you to focus only in certain areas. Ever notice that? Probably not if they are successful. They don't want you to look at the big picture. Another factor to be aware of are the people who write comments in YouTube and on message boards that deliberately confuse the issue by getting into debates about tiny details, or they will just outright insult a poster, or they will provide a military-type swamp gas explanation, quote-unquote, for the sighting. And if all else fails, they will make some kind of joke so that they can deflect people's focus on the sighting. One very big problem that people are guilty of with regard to UFO and alien encounters is that they don't talk back. Remember our podcast where I gave you various phrases and statements that you could say to a visitor? Well, that's the point. For some strange reason, maybe Hollywood, when people see a UFO, they may excitedly remark to their friends and loved ones, "Look at that!" But almost never do they try to establish contact with the craft and/or its occupants. I urge you to open up your psychic mouths and silently or aloud speak to the ship or actual alien visitor, if you are meeting a visitor, and ask it to verify itself to you. By verify, what do I mean? If it is a craft, ask it a simple question. Ask it if it will signal to you by, say, moving to the left. If it is a being, we have already given you some suggestions in that regard. So I urge you to go back and listen to all of the past podcasts that you have missed, because this is a classroom. I am giving you one of the most advanced metaphysical, mystical, magical techniques for working with the visitors in spiritual ways, in psychological ways, and when necessary, to strengthen you in techniques of battle and warfare with them. But let's not go there today. We want to talk about communication. This is where we have failed miserably. We've literally had visitors, and we never said hello. That's stupid, isn't it? I mean, yes, we used to send out those radio signals and scan for radio signals with SETI, but take your average garden variety UFO sighting and people shut up, or they think they have to get out their video cameras. Sure, always travel with a camera in your car or on your person, whatever is more secure. However, when encountering a visiting craft, silently, using your mind's voice, call out to them and ask them, again, to verify themselves by moving to the left or to the right or up or down. Now, if they do respond, then go ahead and introduce yourself. Welcome them. Isn't that the normal thing to do? Ask them where they're from, who they are, and always ask them if you can photograph them. Don't just start snapping off photos. Ask them when you can photograph them. People do receive very specific answers, like, quote, next week at the same time and place, unquote. Be warm and friendly in what you say, and send an energetic beam of rose-red, loving light from your heart to the craft or being. Actually see a beam of rose-red light coming out of your heart and traveling like a laser right to the craft or to the being. Most people think that our brains have a great magnetic field around them. Well, it is true that the brain has an electromagnetic field, but the heart's electromagnetic field is 50 times as strong as the brain's. So, if you want to communicate, communicate from your heart. Fill your mind's voice with plenty of heartfelt welcome and love for your fellow residents of the great pattern of existence. We are all living in a great Persian carpet of existence. I worked briefly for a carpet seller in New York City. There's a secret about Middle Eastern carpets. Their real name is kilims, those manufactured in Turkey. Or when I say manufactured, they're made by hand. So they're called kilims, but most people call them Persian carpets. Anyway, the secret is this. When the carpet weaver is making the carpet, she or he always leaves an error in the design somewhere. A tiny break in a line or a small little mistake in the pattern. Why do they do this? They do this so that if a jinn is trapped inside the carpet by the carpet's design, then because of the gap left intentionally by the carpet maker, the jinn can get out of the carpet. Herein is a secret for those who have ears to hear about creating magical designs. Communication is going on all around us, not just jinns yelling, "Help, let me out of this carpet." Ghosts will communicate with computers and telephones and other electronic equipment. If you work in electronics, sometimes if you are facing an electrical problem, sometimes the problem is not technical in nature, but you must solve the problem by some sort of shamanistic solution, such as smudging the computer. In the distant past, we were more open to the spiritual realities around us. Up until approximately the year 1750, we still retained some universal ability to perceive spiritual realities. In other words, everyone was born with this innate ability. And then when you go way back, say a few thousand years, People thought it was a common, everyday occurrence to see and hear what we would deem unusual, paranormal phenomena. But now, the world is much more quote-unquote physical. Our thinking about the world is much more physical. Our goals and our so-called quote-unquote needs are much more physical. Therefore, we live in the world of the physical now, almost exclusively, than in the world of the imagination or the spiritual world. Just think of how people could sing and tell stories thousands of years ago. A bard could sing and tell a tale that would go on all night long. People were enthralled by this, and people knew songs, hundreds of them, with all their lyrics, just common, everyday people. Today, you ask some famous singer to sing the national anthem, and she screws it all up. One short song, and a professional singer cannot even get the words right. What have we come to? Well, let's get down to the business of learning how to remote view. Remember when we were doing all those mantras? Did you ever think, why is Laurence Galian giving us all these mantras? Well, according to some of the very best remote viewers in the world today, the very first step in learning to remote view is to choose a mantra. Choosing a mantra is step number 1. I last gave you a whole slaughter of mantras the last time we spoke about mantras, so that you could start getting the feel for using a variety of different mantras. But why a mantra, you might ask? Because to do remote viewing successfully, you must connect yourself with what they call the field. Some call it the great link of all consciousness, and the great remote viewer Ingo Swann calls it the matrix. A mantra jacks you into this great link, this field of consciousness. Doing remote viewing requires building up psychic endurance and physical endurance. Let me tell you straight out, the best way to be as strong as possible is to be as coherent as possible. To be coherent means no lies. No lies to yourself or to others. You need to develop a consciousness of humility. Remote viewing will give you great powers, but if you're pretending to yourself that you are learning this technique to help people, when secretly you are really wanting money and power for yourself, you are not coherent. The kind of humility I want you to develop is the kind of humility that realizes you are part of every single thing and force in this and every universe. And everything and force is a part of you. You must humbly submit yourself to the great cosmic plan that is unfolding, allowing yourself to be used by the great architect, spirit, or the greater whole as a cosmic warrior of light. You are becoming a reality architect. There is breathtaking power that lies within you. We are going to awaken the reality architect within you. Now, how do you choose a mantra? As we've touched on, mantras do not have to be in some strange language. In the United States, we're used to gurus from India coming over and initiating people, or people from the US going over to India. And during the initiation, the guru gives the person a mantra in the Hindu language. That is the traditional technique. And then the person will repeat this mantra silently to themselves for the rest of their lives, or until the guru gives them another mantra. Now, the Hindu language is very powerful because it is very old. The older languages are, the more they are in touch with the primeval energies of the earth and the universe. The newer languages are more connected with the cultures that gave birth to them. But the choice of the mantra is 100% up to you. This is what your work is. For 2 weeks, okay, 2 weeks, I want you to try out various mantras and see how they feel. Explore books that give out various mantras. It largely has to do with the kind of person you are and what interests you in life. You can choose a very mystical mantra, or you can choose for your mantra the name of a god or goddess, a particular phrase. Let me give you some examples. Om Ram Shri Ram Jaya Jaya Ram Ram. That is a very powerful Hindu mantra. Om Ram Shri Ram Jaya Jaya Ram Ram. Also is Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. The Hare Krishna chant is an incredible mantra. You know, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Also get the book, The Sutras of Patanjali, which I've recommended to you. It contains literally hundreds of powerful Hindu mantras for all sorts of purposes. So if you're the kind of person who has done a lot of work meditating, I would suggest you look in the Hindu direction for your mantra. Look for a traditional meditational mantra. Now, don't freak out and think, how am I going to pronounce these foreign mantras? The answer is simple. As usual, go to the internet. Right on YouTube, you can enter mantra as a search term, M-A-N-T-R-A. Or if you have a particular mantra already and want to learn how to pronounce it, just type in part of the mantra in the search box. Odds are the mantra will be on a video in YouTube, and there'll probably be at least 5 or 6 examples. But you need to be really honest with yourself here. Remember, be coherent, be honest, be humble. By being humble, I mean no bullshitting yourself. One great mantra is a serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Or you can just say one word like serenity. Whatever gets you in touch with that great field, that great energy field, you will feel it. And that's one way you will know that you have touched upon a possible mantra for yourself. Remember, this mantra is going to be with you for very possibly the rest of your life, or at least a good several years. This is no longer a week-long exercise like we used to do. Now we are getting down to the real thing. No more playing around. Those of you who are more Catholic-oriented may choose something like Hail Mary, full of grace. The Christians can use what is known as the Jesus prayer. The Sufis can use the powerful words La ilaha illallah, which means There is no reality except the ultimate reality. Again, that's pronounced La ilaha illallah. Very beautiful and very powerful. You can use powerful Buddhist magical chants, such as to the great Padmasambhava, the second Buddha, and an extremely powerful magician. One of his chants goes like this: Om Ahum Benza Guru Pema Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Benza Guru Pema Siddhi Hum. A fabulous potential mantra is given by John Lamb Lash in his new book about the Gnostics. Here it is, quote, "Beyond self and pouring through all that lives, so does all life and pour through me." You can also change that to beyond self and pouring through all that lives, so does all live and pour through me. If you're feeling confused, first of all, I'm giving you 2 weeks to play around with various mantras and types of mantras. Don't forget the ton of Rudolf Steiner mantras that I've already given to you at the beginning of this podcast series. You can choose any one of those powerful mantras from the most powerful initiate of the 20th century. Or just Google the word mantra and then put next to it anything that is personally meaningful to you. Now, I just typed in, actually, mantra car. That's what I typed into Google, mantra car. And the third hit is a great mantra for those who are into automobiles. Now, that's the third hit for me. As you may or may not know, Google now tailors its search results for who you are, which is very interesting and a little scary. Why do I suggest to you that you select a mantra that connects with your interests? Because in your interest lie your life's purpose. The greatest amount of focused, laser-like energy is contained in your greatest love or greatest bliss. What turns you on the most? What gets you the most excited? What gets you the most enthused about life? Energy is inextricably intertwined with your destiny. If you are in touch with your life's purpose, then life will guide you to those places, times, and people that you need to encounter to best fulfill your life's purpose. Since I was a young teenager, I had always wanted to go to Paris for some reason. I love the French language, and I studied it actually for 6 years. And I loved French movies. I went to a zillion foreign French films. Finally, in about the year 1982, I guess I was about 30 then, 29, 30, I had the opportunity to take my first journey out of the country and visit Paris. Well, my first reaction to Paris was not good. I saw the Eiffel Tower from the plane as we were approaching, and I thought, so what? It just looks like a lot of metal. That was not the reaction I expected at all. And then as I took the train from the airport to my hotel downtown, all I saw was rush hour traffic and miles of condominiums stretching in every direction. This was not the Paris I had dreamed about and seen in my pictures, movies that I used to go see. Well, on the ground, things turned very strange. everything that I thought I really wanted to see, that is, everything that I thought was really Parisian, really didn't do it for me. But constantly, unexpected things blew my mind. Like I found the studio of my favorite painter, Gustave Moreau. Now, for me, that was mind-blowing. And I found something else. For years I had been studying and playing electronic music, and I found underground, underneath the newest art museum in Paris, something called IRCAM, which is the premier computer music center in the world, and I did not even know about it, and I just completely stumbled, practically fell down the stairs into IRCAM. But something incredible happened that I was not at all expecting. I had been walking every day while I was in Paris. I wanted to see every street, and I didn't care where I was. I just wanted to absorb the city. I would deliberately get lost. I didn't care. So I found myself in places like the meatpacking section, the good parts of town, the not so good parts of town, all over. One day, I found myself mysteriously and almost unconsciously walking toward a construction site. I had no idea why I was doing this, but as I say, I was not fully aware of what was happening. It was more like a dream. Believe it or not, I walked right into the middle of this construction site. I probably felt safe doing so because there was no one around. At the same time, though, the fact that there wasn't a single soul around me in this huge construction site was probably more scary than if there had been workers going on about their regular business. Well, I entered the building, and after a short while, I realized I was in a mall. The mall was 90% completed, but completely empty, and no companies had moved into any stores yet. I could see the wiring and electricity had not yet been fully installed, and the heating and air conditioning ducts were still partially opened and exposed. I astonished myself when I walked down an escalator that was not moving down to the lower level. This area was a bit darker, but looked about the same as the main floor level. However, I saw a star-like pattern on the floor in front of me, and something told me to go and stand on it, so I did. Suddenly, like a switch was flipped, like a huge floodgate opening up, an explosion of energy shot up through me. This was a geyser coming up deep from the earth and shooting up energy through me high into space, like the lightning of a firework when it shoots off in all directions simultaneously. The energy shot right through me, pure, shining, brilliant energy that made me feel like I was a living fountain of cosmic energy. Power was shooting up from out of the ground, through me, and out through my hands and head. Suddenly there was this deep knowing inside of me that this was the reason I had been called to Paris. Not the Parisian music or the language or any of the cultural stuff, but for this moment, this ecstatic connection experience with the very energy nexus point on the planet Earth. Gradually I began to disappear. I was just like a conduit or pipeline for this energy that was just shooting straight through me, and more of the energy as the energy geyser shot up high into the atmosphere. nothing exists but the one conscious energy. After what must have been a long time, I kind of came to and bit by bit saw that I was still in the same bottom floor of a deserted new mall, but it had gotten darker outside. Years passed after this event, many years, and one night I was at a party at which there were some French people. It occurred to me to ask them if they knew of this place I had wandered into. Being not only Frenchmen but also aware people, they explained to me that I had indeed wandered into a brand new mall that had been built. But what they told me next blew my mind. They said, "Oh yes, we know this mall. It is very controversial. The reason it is controversial is because it was built in the very center of old Paris." For those of you who don't know, all old and traditional cities have a town square. Every little hamlet here in Mexico has a town square. It doesn't matter how small the town is, they have a town square, and the people come out and enjoy it. Well, of course, ancient Paris had its own town square, and that is exactly where I was, standing in that mall, and the star on the floor where I stood, well, it turns out that I was standing at the very center of ancient Paris. The ancients built their cities at the junction of energy lines, or ley lines as they are called. I had been selected for some mystic reason to stand at the junction of these ancient ley lines and to have very ancient energy pour through my body and soul. Is there any wonder why the great temples of antiquity were built at the junction point of several ley lines? Every major temple, holy site, and sacred place was situated at these junction points. The power at such places is incredible. That ends our communication for tonight. We will be in contact soon.